What if I told you the retirement system that Americans are betting their entire financial future on wasn't designed for them? Not designed poorly, not designed for good intentions that went sideways, just not designed for your situation, for your income level, for your life, the one you're trying to build. That's not a conspiracy theory, it's history. And once you know it, you're going to look at your retirement plan a little different. I'm Jared with Green Dot Wealth. Last week, we talked about the slow leak hiding behind your savings. This week, we're going to go one level deeper into the retirement vehicle that most people have been told is the cornerstone of their financial future. I want to be clear up front. I'm not here to tell you to raid your 401k and abandon your retirement accounts. What I am going to do is give you a full picture, the history, the math, the risks, so you can make the decision with your eyes actually open. Let's start with a quick history lesson, because context matters. The 401k came out of a provision in the Revenue Act of 1978. You might recognize it, Section 401, Paragraph K, hence the name. And in the early days, it was used almost exclusively for a small group of corporate executives as a way to defer their compensation and reduce their current tax burden. It wasn't a retirement savings vehicle for everyday workers. It wasn't a tax shelter for high earners. If you want to take a little deeper look on the history, you might look at KEO plans, HR 10, a fascinating read on how tax advantage retirement accounts evolved long before the 401k even existed. I'll drop a note in the description in case you're interested. Back to the 401k. Over the next decade, something shifted. Companies were looking for ways to reduce the cost of the defined benefit pension plans they've been offering employees for decades. Pensions were expensive. The company carried the risk, funded the account, and guaranteed a monthly payment for life. The 401k flipped that model entirely. Suddenly, the employee carried the risk, funded the account, and hoped the market cooperated by the time they needed the money. It wasn't a malicious switch, but it was a fundamental transfer of risk from the employer to you that most people never fully understood because nobody explained it that way. The 401k became the default retirement vehicle not because it was the best option for workers, but because it was the cheapest option for companies. So what are the actual risks built into this structure? Because there are several, and most people have never had them laid out plainly. Let's start with sequence of return risks. It doesn't get talked about enough. If the market takes a significant hit in the first few years of your retirement, right when you start drawing from your account, the damage is disproportionate and potentially unrecoverable. You're selling shares at low prices to fund your living expenses, which means fewer shares left to recover when the market bounces back. The timing of returns matters just as much as the average return, and you have zero control over that timing. Another item, the tax deferral or tax delay. The pitch on the traditional 401k is you defer taxes now and pay them later in retirement when you're in a lower tax bracket. That sounds great, but two things can break that assumption. First, tax rates in the future are unknown. You might be deferring taxes today and paying them at higher rates tomorrow. Second, if you've done a good job saving, you might not be in a lower tax bracket at retirement. You could be walking into a tax bill you didn't plan for. And last, required minimum distributions. Starting at age 73, the IRS requires you start withdrawing from your traditional 401k whether you need the money or not. That means taxable income whether you want it or not, which can push you into potentially higher tax brackets, affect your Medicare premiums, and remove control over your own retirement timeline. None of these are secrets. They're features of the system, but they're rarely explained clearly when someone's being enrolled in their first day at the new job. So here's the question that's worthy of asking. The same government that oversees your 401k, that sets the rules, controls the timeline, and decides how you access your own money, also runs the U.S. Postal Service, Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid, the Department of Energy, the war on poverty. Need I continue? All of these programs are functionally insolvent, broke, running on borrowed time and borrowed money. And so forgive me if I'm a little skeptical that I'm supposed to trust that same track record with the same rules governing my retirement savings. Because here's the thing, the rules can change. They have changed before. Contribution limits, withdrawal ages, distribution requirements. All of it has been adjusted over time by people who weren't thinking about your retirement. They were thinking about a budget shortfall. And if times got tough enough, history suggests they will, do you think your 401k balance is off limits? Are you certain the government couldn't find a way to leverage that capital when they need it? I'm not going to say it's going to happen. I'm saying you should be asking the question. Because if the answer makes you a little uncomfortable, the discomfort is worth paying attention to. Here's what I see in real conversations with real people. Someone comes to me in their late 40s, early 50s. They've been contributing to their 401k for 20 plus years. They've done everything they were told. They sit across the table from me with an uncomfortable mix of hope and anxiety. Because the number in their account feels big, but they genuinely don't know if it's enough. And the problem isn't that they didn't save. The problem is that they were given one tool, told it was an answer, never shown the full picture of what the tool can do. They didn't know about sequence of returns risk. They haven't modeled their required minimum distributions. They haven't thought about what their tax rate might look like in 15 years. They just kept contributing because that's what you do. And now approaching the finish line, and it's starting to feel like a lot of uncertainty is in the cards. That anxiety, that nagging sense that maybe the plan isn't as solid as it looked on paper, is a common topic when I talk to folks. And it makes complete sense because the plan was built on assumptions that nobody ever verified out loud. So what's the answer? Because I don't think the answer is simply stop contributing to your 401k. For a lot of people, especially with an employer match, that's still a smart move. The answer is stop treating the 401k as the entire plan and start treating it as one piece of a more complete picture. Families I work with do differently is build a foundation first. A warehouse of wealth. Liquid, accessible, not market dependent, and not subject to the government's distribution timelines. That foundation is stable. It's there in good markets and in bad. And it removes the sequence of return risk because they're not forced to sell anything at a bad time. Then the 401k and other investments on top of the foundation are still growing. They're still deferring taxes. And now there's a floor underneath them that doesn't move. That's a fundamentally different retirement picture. Not because the 401k changed, but because there's something underneath it that provides stability and control that the 401k structurally cannot. If you're somewhere in the middle of your working years and this video is stirring something up, that's worth paying attention to. Not because you've done something wrong, but because there may be gaps in your plan that nobody's ever walked you through clearly. And the best time to address that is before you need to. Check out green.wealth.com, book a free 30-minute discovery call. We'll look at your current picture, what it's doing, where the risks are, and what a more complete foundation might look like. No pressure, no pitch, just clarity. The link is in the description. It takes just a minute to book. And if you're not ready for that conversation yet, hit subscribe. Next week, we're going to get into some objections, some hard questions that folks have about IBC, and I'm going to answer them as directly as I can, starting with the big one. Isn't whole life insurance a terrible investment? I'm Jared with Green Dot Wealth, and I'll see you next week.